but I promised that this was the difference between me passing and failing. Okay. Believing that I could do this, walking in there and really believing I'm going to do this, whether it's now or later, I'm doing this. I am capable of doing this. And there's no reason why that person over there is a lawyer and I'm not. Hey
everybody, welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. We have a wonderful opportunity today to talk to a newly successful Florida bar member, Melanie Murias. Hi Melanie, how are you?
Hi Jackson, I'm good. How are you?
Well, good. You've got a great story. This goes back quite a few years, really, and it's got to feel great to you right now.
It does. It's huge relief, honestly.
Yeah. And your story, I think, is going to inspire a lot of folks. So I want to jump right into it. Maybe you can tell our audience a little bit about your background and how you got to the point of taking the bar exam.
Well, I think I've always wanted to be a lawyer, honestly, since I was maybe 10 and I did one of those reports on career day and I went to the library, and back in the day when you go to the library and get books and and I just worked towards that. And I got into law school. I'm from Florida. I went to law school in New York, though. Got into New York Law School. My husband and I went to New York together. We were already married. He did dental school. I did law school. And I was just very excited. It was an exciting place to go to law school, honestly. The problem was, is that I wanted to practice in Florida. And it's not always easy for someone who's trained in the Northeast to be a Florida attorney. But I had some amazing experiences. I worked for a T&E lawyer for a year in New York, and she was amazing. She taught me a lot. I went to all 5 boroughs of New York, all the courts, and learned a lot, and I really had an appreciation for the practice of law. And then I came back here and wasn't very successful with big box bar reviews and all that stuff. I got pregnant with my first child, and which was a blessing and awesome, but not very conducive to studying for anything.
Just to stop, you took the exam the first time in 2015, is that right?
2014.
2014, okay. And then your first child was born what year?
She was born July 2016.
Okay. So a couple years in, you've been trying, not having some success, and then you get pregnant, and now a baby and the bar. Tell me about that.
Okay, so I got pregnant and I stopped taking the bar for a while with my first child, because when you become a new mom, you really don't know what you're doing, and you're fascinated. At least I was fascinated and in love with my daughter, and thinking about anything else was just kind of counterintuitive and just not where my head was at. And with the bar exam, your head's got to really be on straight, and you got to know, you have to have your eye on focus and you be in the game or whatever. And when you're a first time mom, I mean, maybe some people could do it, but I was just fascinated with my daughter and very into raising her and seeing all these things. So I wasn't prepared to take the exam again until I believe she was 2 already. And
that came to me, wasn't it?
Yes,
I think that's the point, right?
That's when I came to you, because I knew that doing what I had done in the past just wasn't going to cut it. And so I came to you, and immediately I started having some issues with my daughter wasn't chewing food, and I took her to a whole bunch of evaluations and to see if autism was thrown in there and all this stuff. And so I had to put my studying on hold. This was October when I came to you, and immediately I started taking her to evaluations, and it was hard. But then end of December, I contacted you, and we worked it out so that I was you told me this is a realistic goal. If you do this, you could do it. If not, I'm not sure. And we started working with each other, and I started going at it. Once we figured out, my daughter just had a sensitivity. Once we figured out what she had and how to help her and everything, I was able to focus on something, else. Once she was taken care of, and once we knew she's okay, she's going to be fine, I started studying. But at that point, I was studying for the February bar, and it was beginning of January, and I had a toddler. So you had that, and all of a sudden, something else happened end of January while I'm in the middle of studying hardcore. I find out I'm pregnant, and I don't have nice, easy pregnancies. I have getting sick all hours of everything pregnancy. So here I am with a toddler studying with you. I was doing the personal training course with you. So I was talking to you regularly and everything, and with a toddler and getting sick a lot.
Yeah, and I just want to stop here because I have a lot of conversations with people where they're cheerful and looking a little green, but you were cheerful and green before we started some of those calls, before I ever said a word. It was like, oh my gosh, how much more difficult can this be?
No,
And yet you really were pretty realistic about it. You knew the challenges, but you also were very focused in the sense of you knew that long term you were going to do this, even if it wasn't going to happen right at that moment. Is that a fair statement?
Yes, I was very determined, and I knew that I was going to do this, okay? And I knew for some reason with your course, I felt, even with all these obstacles and all these things, I felt confident that I could do it. Where the confidence started to wane was when I was looking and I was made aware that I wasn't going to finish your course the first time, because I had this momentum and I was keeping it. If you remember, I was making very good time and everything, but I did get very sick, and I did try, and I think that I might have passed that first time with you had I not let myself be psyched out a bit, because I think part of the bar exam is confidence, and a big part of the bar exam is confidence, is walking in there and knowing I got this, or I have all the tools I need. And I was very close to finishing your course, but because of all those obstacles, I didn't. So I didn't do any of the practice tests at the end. I think I was missing 2 Florida subjects or something like that. And that doesn't seem like it really isn't. Knowledge-wise, it's really not that big of a deal. But when you're psychologically, it was huge. And I went in there wondering, oh my God, am I going to get sick in the middle of this exam? First of all, I had my nausea medication with me. I had a letter to one of those things to make sure, a medical thing to make sure that I could have food and water, because I would not have been able to do that without any snack or whatever. I got sick in the middle of the exam anyway. And I was just very psyched out because I didn't finish this course. I didn't do everything that I could possibly do. And when you have that type A personality, you need to do everything that you possibly can, because if not, you're going to psych yourself out and you're going to be your worst enemy. And that happened to me that first time. I really do think that I had the knowledge and everything with what I had from your course to pass that first time. I really do. But I was very close too, if you remember.
You were very close. And I remember afterwards when you got your results, this is the thing that sticks out to me, is how determined you were. It was, okay, all right, I get it. I see what happened. Not happy about it, but I see where I can go from here, and let's just put our head down and start back to work. And that was pretty impressive to me. I mean, with all of the circumstances and the toddler and now more pregnant. So there was a lot going on in your life, to say the least, right?
Yes. But, I was the way I looked at it was this way. If I got this far with you and being sick and all these things in my life that were going on, then I could do this. There was like a light in the end of the tunnel type of thing that I had in the past when I had tried the exam. I'd never been this close. So I'm going to do this. There's a light in the end of the tunnel. I just have to keep on at that point. I was very determined to be a good example for my daughter. I wanted her to be able to know that she could do anything. If she saw that mommy's a lawyer, mommy did it, I could do anything. Those type of examples are very important with kids. So
yeah, and someday, Melanie, she'll watch this interview and go, whoa, Mom. Both of your kids will do that, right? Yeah, that's a very cool thing. So let's fast forward. You go back into the exam, and this time you get through part of the exam, pass part of it, but not the whole exam. You pass part A, the Florida part. You do really well. And on the multi-state, you come up just short, and you miss the whole exam. I mean, you miss the compensatory model by 2.5 points. What did that feel like?
Oh my God. Okay, so at this point, I'm heavily pregnant. And when I came into when I went to take that exam, I was heavily pregnant and just kind of really uncomfortable and really, really uncomfortable. And I was still getting sick, by the way. When I say I have bad pregnancies, both of them were the same. So no, I was getting sick at the same time, but I was kind of had this over it mentality. But so it has to do with pacing myself. So the Florida section was the first day. Okay. That's huge, actually. For me, it was, at least with the pregnancy and everything, because I was fresh and I did those essays. And essays, for some reason, have always kept my focus longer than multiple choice, because you're writing away an essay and it's very easy to be carried away in an essay and not break. So unless my bladder was screaming at me, I didn't. With multiple choice, it takes, at least for me, it's always taken a lot more concentration, a lot more stamina. And the fact that that MBE is the second day, I think it hurt me a little. I think I was fatigued. But the point is that when I found out that I had passed one part and I needed to pass the other, I was tired. I was about to give birth. When the results came out, I was about to give birth. Okay. Yeah. So I was tired. I was nesting, trying to bring in my new baby into this world and making everything ready. And I was just, oh no, not again. I have to do this. But I tried to stay positive in that I had one portion down. So, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to do what I did with my first child and leave everything for when he becomes 2 years old. I have to just keep going. And maybe it'll be a lot easier if all I have to do is focus on the second part. The problem is having a baby, a newborn, and not sleeping, and a toddler who I was having problems potty training. It was just, you have potty training starting school, because I was trying to start her in school, but she had to be potty trained. And then having this newborn baby and having the toddler being jealous of the newborn baby. And it's a lot. But I said, you know what, I have to do this because it's never going to get easier at this point. It's just going to get harder. And honestly, I kept going. I was a little bit discouraged. I'm not going to lie to you. I was at this point, because of the fact that I was about to give birth and all these things were happening. And I really thought that I had passed, because I was a little bit more confident the second time around. But again, I'm sure a lot of pregnant women pass the exam and everything. And I think that that's amazing. And I really give kudos to any woman who, as a parent or pregnant or anything, goes in there, you're pregnant, because it is so hard, because you're taking this exam that's hard when you're not pregnant and uncomfortable. At least for me, the chairs, everything, my back, you have to understand, I was the most uncomfortable person ever that I have been, and taking that exam. So, I tried to cut myself a little bit of slack. And that's how I just I go, you know what? I need to be stronger, and I'm going to pass this other part. And I kind of gave myself a pep talk saying, there's nowhere to go but up from here. You just got to keep going.
Put it in perspective for our audience. You only missed by 2 questions.
Yes.
So it wasn't like you bombed the multi-state. You could have been almost a Scribner's error that would have kept you out. So in some ways that's easy because you're close to it. In some ways it's very hard because, oh my gosh, so little would have changed it. So you reset yourself and took some time for the second baby, and then you pushed on to the February 2020 exam to take just the multi-state, just Part B, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, as you were studying this time, what are you doing? What's in your thought process as you're coming up on this exam?
My thought process was, because I knew that I needed to be as confident as possible, my thought process was do everything that I didn't do before. So I literally every Sunday, I would leave the house, leave the baby, everything with my husband. We had an understanding on Sundays, he would have to stay with the children, and I would go to Starbucks with the noise and everything, because I thought it was important to learn to focus with noise around me. And I would take a practice exam, MBE practice exam. I started off with only half an exam for the first 2. And then I literally did everything every exam that you have there for me to do, I did. Yeah. Because I needed that. At that point, I knew that I had all the information I needed. Okay. I knew that I had done your course twice. I had all the information. MBE wise, I had finished MBE subjects. So I had all this information, but I thought this is just another exam. This is just another. And in able to get there, I had to do all of those practice exams to get my mind where it needed to be. I had done your course twice with the MBE. So I had that knowledge there. That's very important.
Yeah. And were you a photo reader?
Yes, I was. So photo reading, I still don't know if it worked. It's very strange. So it had to have worked. It's so weird. So you do this photo reading and you kind of feel you're doing it wrong. At least I did. I felt like I was being ridiculous looking at a page and just turning the page. And it was just one of those, but it had to have worked because I did notice that I was moving along more quickly and absorbing more information. But till this day, I feel like I don't know what I'm doing when I do it. But I gave it a shot because it was something that I needed when you don't have a lot of time. When there was a subject, when I would do a practice exam and there was a subject I was particularly weak on, I'd go back to the outline. And instead of, you don't want to be there for days there because it's not hours, it's days with an outline if you're just reading it, because not many people could sit there with that outline and read it like you would a novel. So I would photo read it. I say this because I really do feel this. I am very insecure about my photo reading, but I did it anyway because I think it did work because I would get better the next time I would do an exam. I wouldn't have a problem in that subject. But it's one of those things that, like I said, photo reading is kind of like witchcraft and wizardry because I didn't know. I did everything that in the course for the photo reading and everything, but I still felt I didn't know what I was doing. But it did help. I don't know how to explain that.
That's good enough. I mean, I don't know how electricity or the internet work either. So there you go. Okay. So you do all of this practice and preparation, and now you're going back in to take the exam in February. And you've been in the exam before, but this time you're not pregnant, and so you're not sick. That had to be a relief to be able to go in and take it like a relatively normal person, right?
Yeah, it was a huge relief. I went in very calm, actually. I took a bag to leave in that room when there's a room to leave a bag. I took a bag with a cooler inside the bag with food, so I didn't have to leave anything. I didn't have to be worried about food. I had my headphones in. I didn't talk to anyone. Very important, by the way. Don't talk to anyone. I was very calm. I was very focused. I wasn't nervous this time around. This was very different. I went in there with the knowledge that I had done everything that I could. And that since other times I had fallen short with one way or another, not being able to take a test, being pregnant. This time I didn't have any of that against me. So I kind of went, you know what? I can pass this exam. I've taken practice tests that I've passed, and I can pass this exam. I don't feel sick. It was kind of that type of thing. I guess since I had so many strikes against me and the others, and I didn't have those obstacles at this point, I was fine. I went in there. I sat down for this exam. I wasn't crazy nervous. You're going to be a little nervous, even though you're calm and you know that you did everything. At least I'm a nervous person, so there's going to be some nerves, but they didn't control the outcome. And I just went in there and I did my thing, and I was focused, and it worked.
Yeah, and then you come home and you've got 6 weeks of waiting, but of course with a 3-year-old and a newborn, results come out. Tell me about finding out about your results.
So I go and I'm checking it all morning, and when it finally comes up, I find my number, and I had to get a ruler to make sure that my pass was my pass. You're there with a ruler, whatever, and I cried. And not the soft cry either, like the ugly cry, the oh my God cry. I went to law school. I graduated law school in 2014. I have 2 kids. I also have really bad stomach issues. It's starting to get controlled now. And that really also, health-wise, it's been very hard. So I had all these things against me, and I did it. And I passed. And I'm getting emotional now because it still really hasn't hit me. But I couldn't, there was part of me, it's kind of like being in shock. So I kept checking it, honestly, like one of those obsessive compulsive people. I kept checking it to make sure it wouldn't change. And you're probably looking at me like I'm crazy, but it's true. I kept checking it. I was like, maybe I'm delusional or something, because all this time that I've been studying for this test, and that this test has kind of been this big obstacle in my mind and kind of this impossible thing. And all of a sudden it wasn't impossible anymore. And I was just so happy. And I think I grabbed my toddler and we danced. And when I told my husband, he was so happy. We were all so happy. We didn't know what to do. And I was crying. And I think that there was a lot of crying. I just didn't know. I didn't process it. But at the same time, it was half shock. There was so much emotion there because you're going through these things. And even though I knew I had to keep going and I had to keep going and I had to keep going, the idea of me passing, I hadn't grasped what I would do once I would pass. I just kind of had to get there. I'm still very emotional on it.
As you should be. It's an extraordinary achievement, Melanie. And I think the future for you is so bright, but the culmination of a 6-year odyssey to get to this point has to be a moment of great emotional release. And I know for your family, that's a big deal. And as I say, years from now, I hope that your kiddos will have a chance to watch this interview and really find out what mommy did, because that's really something. And we're very proud of you. Do you have any advice? I know that there are people in our audience who are going to be watching this who may be in similar situations with families, certainly staying at home right now and lots of challenges in the world. What advice would you give those individuals as they're looking at the bar? Maybe they've taken and failed it. What would you tell them?
The biggest thing is that with this exam, you've said it a lot, actually, that you're your worst enemy with this exam. And I know that you keep hearing this. I know that you keep hearing that you are your worst enemy and that you need to believe in yourself. And I know that you have to be trying to do this, but I promise that this was the difference between me passing and failing, okay? Believing that I could do this, walking in there and really believing I'm going to do this, whether it's now or later, I'm doing this. I am capable of doing this. And there's no reason why that person over there is a lawyer and I'm not. No reason whatsoever. You graduated law school just like they did. You made it just like they did. You might have more obstacles. You might have children. You might have a job. You might have all these things. But you can do it. Maybe it takes you a little bit more time, but that doesn't matter. It matters that you get from point A to point B. It doesn't matter how quickly you do it. You do everything that Jackson tells you to do, because it does make a huge difference. I would have never been able to do that with a big box bar review. I didn't have that type of support. I didn't have the type of understanding. I didn't have a person there just helping me through and saying, okay, realistically, this is what we have to do. It makes a very big difference. But in addition to that, you can have all the support in the world, but if you don't believe that you can do it, you're not going to. So you have to believe that you can do it. So whatever you need to do to get into that mindset, do everything Jackson tells you to. I didn't sleep for a while studying for this exam, because when you have 2 kids, think about when you have time to do this. My husband works on Saturdays, so it's more likely than not you're doing it at night. And with 3 a.m. feedings and everything, I just wasn't sleeping for a while. It's only temporary, the not sleeping, okay? You can do it. You're capable of a lot. If you don't have time, there's always time. You have to find those little niches, even if it's at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m. and it sucks and you hate life and you have chills because you think you're getting a cold, but it's really because you're exhausted. But you can do it. If you can do this, put in the time, have confidence in yourself, and you can do it. I did it with 2 kids, health problems, and a toddler that needed a little extra attention, and I did it.
And we are so pleased for you, so proud of you. One of the fun things for me as a teacher, as a mentor, is to watch the growth of our students. And I watched you go from being really sort of not sure of where to go with it and what to do and of yourself to being very confident and very determined and growing through this and just refusing to give up no matter what the circumstance was. I think that determination makes me confident that the kind of lawyer that you're going to be is going to be outstanding. That is the quality that I would look for in a counselor at law. And I know that it's a remarkable quality. So congratulations to you. Any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience today?
Your course really, really helped. I don't know if it's the way that you structure it. I don't know if it's the support you give me. I don't know what it was, but your course it made sense even after taking the bar exam and everything. Your course put the exam in a way that I was able to understand it more. I don't know how to explain that, but I didn't understand it as much even after taking it with 2 other bar review courses before you, okay? And even taking the exam and everything, it didn't make as much sense until I had your course, okay? And I think that your course is very special. And what you do is very special, and it helped me immensely, and you helped me immensely, and I'm not sure that I would have been able to pass without you. So I really do appreciate that.
Well, thank you. That is very kind of you and very generous. I appreciate that so much. I know that our audience is going to be encouraged by your story. They're going to be determined and follow in your footsteps. I think it's going to be fun to watch what happens with your career over time and watching your kiddos grow up and just seeing the kind of life and family that you raise. And so I'm really very grateful that we've been able to be part of this journey with you, and I hope we'll continue to be able to do that. So I want to thank you for sharing your story, telling us about what's happened, and just want to encourage you. And I know we're all in isolation right now, but give you virtual high fives and hugs and lots of confetti, and enjoy these moments ahead on so many levels. And again, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
All right. And to our audience, we'll see you again next time. Thanks for being here. Bye-bye, everybody.